Burning Bright, Poetry and Prose from Passenger Press. Gilbert Arzola says he was one generation removed from the back of a migrant truck. He grew up in Indiana, where his family was one of 3 Mexican-American families in an otherwise white community. Now that he's retired, he writes poetry, fiction, and essays. He also coaches the local high school girls' softball team. In fact, he's written a book about fast-pitch softball. Arzola won the 2019 Passenger Poetry Contest, and subsequently Passenger published his book of poems, Prayers of Little Consequence. Here from that book is Gilbert Arzola's poem, In the Fields. There was work to do, so the Mexicans came. In 1964, I was 12, and it was Mexicans and poor white kids in soiled shirts and torn blue jeans that pulled at weeds like they were yanking at ropes. They made piles of things and moved the pipes to irrigate the fields. The days were hotter then and lasted longer. By midday, the cool night and morning dew melted away like butter left on kitchen tables. We stood things then. We stood the heat and being hungry. We stood the vacant stares of passengers in cars passing by headed to town. We stood the pain in our shoulders that you couldn't wish away. We stood things not because we were brave or strong, but because there was no choice. Sometimes, if it hadn't rained for days, the dust rose with each breeze and each step, and covered your arms like a thin sheet and wrapped around your neck as if the hands of God were choking you. It itched like 1,000 insect bites, but you didn't scratch the itch. The old ones told you when you came into the fields that scratching only made it worse. It was best just to stand it. Gilbert Arzola's poem, In the Fields, from his book, Prayers of Little Consequence. Isn't that a great metaphor at the end for not only being, but being perceived as a poor farm worker? Here it is again. It itched like 1,000 insect bites, but you didn't scratch the itch. The old ones told you, when you came into the fields, that scratching only made it worse. It was best just to stand it. To buy Gilbert Arzola's book, Prayers of Little Consequence, or learn more about Passenger and its commitment to writers over 50, go to passengerbooks.com. For Kendra, Mary, Christine, and the rest of the staff at Passenger, I'm John Shore. This audiocast was made possible in part by a grant from the Maryland State Arts Council.